Hi, good evening, and welcome to Talking About. Tonight's topic is dwarfism, and a little bit later on we're going to be taking your calls. We are a viewer interactive program. We'll have a phone number up on the screen in a little while. Again, tonight's topic is dwarfism. My guests are, let's go in order, Betty Adelson, Anna Adelson, and Julie Williams. Okay, well, it's good to have you here. I'm glad you can all make it tonight. Let's start at the beginning. What is dwarfism? Beyond the obvious, I mean,
it's I think it's listed as anybody who is under 4'10", and has a condition. Is that what it is?
Anyone with a medical condition who's 4'10" or under, officially as a result of some kind of medical problem.
So your grandma who is 4'10", you know, but she just happens to be 4'10", is not considered a dwarf.
Okay, so it is something.
You have to be medically diagnosed.
Okay. Yeah. Are there different kinds? Are there different variations? Or is it just one group?
There's over 200 different types of dwarfism, and I have achondroplasia.
Okay.
And Julie is a different type of dwarfism.
Which is?
My form is called Diastrophic dysplasia.
Okay. And
the most common forms are achondroplasia is the most common. I think it's 1 in every, is it 10,000 births, or is that wrong, Mom? 14,000? I don't know.
They keep changing it. It was anywhere between 14 and 20,000, 1 in 20,000, something like that.
Mm-hmm. And then there's SED, which I don't know what it means. So I'm going to go to my mother again. What it stands for?
It's
spondyloepiphyseal dysplasia.
Right, spondyloepiphyseal dysplasia.
These are
all these
words.
Yeah.
What you're looking at is the whole group that's called chondrodystrophies, which are bone disorders. The whole bunch of them, they have million-dollar names. They tend to have very long, unpronounceable names, but they attach to individual people, but they have complicated names.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So the term dwarfism, is that the most politically correct, or is that just an accuracy issue? I mean, what is offensive? I mean, is the term midget considered offensive?
Right. Yeah. The term midget, you know, I've never met a dwarf that would enjoy being called a midget. Dwarf or little person is a short stature, person of short stature is usually, you know, but everyone has their own opinion. I prefer to be called, not to be referred to as a person who has dwarfism, whereas someone else would choose little person, so it varies. But midget, whoop.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just because of the way it's been used?
Yeah, I think so, yeah, you know, when it's seen, I don't know why it's become such a negative word, but
it's the word or what's behind the word sometimes?
it just seems has a derogatory connotation to it. And I don't know why, because it used to be a medical term for a person of proportionate dwarfism.
Maybe.
But I don't know why it's become negative. It's just something that's happened over time. You know, like children in the street will call you midget because they don't know. Mm-hmm. But
like, look at the midget is a common thing.
But why is that? Well, why? If they were saying, look at the dwarf, all over, would we have a negative feeling about dwarf? I don't know. I don't know why, but it is.
Okay, exactly. A little tiny confession. I usually have a regular opening sequence of clips from previous shows. And at one point I had a couple of stand-up comedians on, and we were talking about what is funny and what is not funny. And the line they used was, incest, not funny, midgets, not funny, incestuous midgets, funny. And 10 minutes ago we had a little panic attack in the control room saying, that's not really appropriate tonight. And is that appropriate at any time? Should I remove that from the opening?
Incestuous
Two comedians talking about what is funny. Incest, not funny. Midget's not funny. Incestuous midget's funny.
I would say, yeah, that's not nice.
Yeah. It's something that you take for granted.
Yeah, I would say a dwarf could do
yeah.
that. Could do that joke.
Could do that joke.
Yeah, I can do a midget joke as long as I want the cows to come home. But no, I wouldn't think so. What do you think?
I think any time that you're questioning, is that okay?
Right.
Then you probably do want to say maybe this isn't maybe it's not
right.
okay.
Yeah. Honestly, until 10 minutes ago, I didn't even remember that I had it in there. And it's just something that you take for granted.
Was it on just before the opening of the show? Was
no,
it
I
you took it out.
I had a panic attack 10 minutes ago, and I said we can't use that. Let's just run it over black and not do that because
And it has to do also with who you know, whether is close to you. So someone I know said to a friend of ours, would you like to hear a midget joke? And he said, no. Would you like to hear a dwarf joke? No, because it's not a joke anymore if it's someone who you know that you don't like to hear jokes about. And the midget thing is, I think, midge means little insect, and that's a negative kind of thing.
Is that the origin of the word?
That's the origin of the word. But I think
M-I-D-G?
M-I-D-G-E,
is little
and it got to be bad though, just round like a black, like Negro was once okay, colored people are okay, then black is okay, and then people of color are okay. So these days, midget is really thought of as terrible, and maybe it's because people say, look at the midget a lot on the streets. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't know. But it's...
I also think, too, it's not always what someone says or what word they use when they say it. There's a sense of the intent behind what someone is saying. Right. If there is a feeling of malicious intent or an intrusive intent, someone coming up and making comments, assuming some things, and intruding, then you could say the nicest thing in the world and I'm annoyed or offended. So the intent and the maliciousness behind it has always been my...
Hello?
Your gauge for it?
Yeah.
Hello?
So, and I believe we have a caller.
This is Harry.
Okay, hi Harry. Do you have a question?
Yes, my question is, considering the circumstances, is it very difficult for them to get dates, or how are they looked at when they try to date among one another?
Okay, relationships. He's talking about dating. Do you generally... What are you asking? Are you asking if they date with... Is this off color, or is this...
I think it's real. Can he ask?
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Are you talking to me?
Yes. Can you elaborate on...
Yeah, what I'm trying to say, do they date taller people, or they tend to date people their own size?
Within the dwarf community.
If you ask me preference, tall, short.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, anything goes.
Yeah.
Now that will also vary from person to person that you ask, so I don't...
Right. It depends on the person,
Right.
I happen to have only dated people of short stature.
Uh-huh.
But there are many dwarfs that, I am absolutely, it doesn't matter, but I just, who knows? I have no preference.
Okay, so it's a matter of
Average
personal
stature or
preference.
short stature, yeah. I have no preference. Some people do, some people don't.
So there's nothing that really dominates.
Yes, I don't know if I have enough information. How can you make that? You would have to know every dwarf.
Yeah, well, you're expected to come on this show. Okay, you have any other questions, Harry? I guess not.
No.
Thank you for calling, Harry. We talked a little bit about the genetics of dwarfism. It's a genetic thing, or is it just something?
You didn't do that?
It is genetic.
And within each dwarfism, there will be specific genetic, kind of like a blueprint that will
Okay.
make that particular dwarfism manifest itself.
Okay.
Mine is a recessive genetic So two recessive genes have to come together. So both parents have to have at least one of those recessive genes.
Do you want to say about your... Oh, never mind.
What's that? What?
Nothing.
Oh.
You would say it if you wanted to say it.
Okay.
And I think I'm the same, right? Recessive?
I
have no idea.
I don't know.
Mom?
No, achondroplasia is dominant.
Okay.
There you go.
So that means in most, achondroplasia is the most common condition, and about 80%, 85% of persons born with achondroplasia come from parents who are average statured, and it's a new mutation.
Okay.
That means it's the first time it's ever happened in their family,
Okay.
and then once it's happened, it gets passed on in a certain way. So
Okay. Are there percentages of, for example, the odds of, say, mixed parents having a child goes better? What are the percentages or ratios? Or are there percentages or ratios?
I thought that for two dwarfs, I thought it was 50% dwarf, 25% average, and then 25% double dominant. Right? Is that
Right.
correct?
Right.
In which
Double
case,
dominant.
double dominant is which each person gets the dwarf gene. Each person gives the dwarf gene to the child, and in which case it's not a viable, child. Either
It'd be the pregnancy would terminate itself,
it
or
would either terminate itself, or when the child was born, unfortunately, the child would only live
a short time.
very short time.
So,
So that's something I think that people don't know, that so many dwarfs go through who have children, is that 1 in 4 of the births,
will not
ends in
make it.
will not make it. But now,
Yeah, that's just if there are two, both are dwarfs.
right, that's what I
Right.
said. Two dwarfs have a child together.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but the genes have been discovered.
Yeah.
Is there screening available? And
Yes.
I don't
would
know.
it-
You wanna-
They
you wanna
really know
take
more
that
than medical
prenatal
stuff.
screening.
There is. It is available, yes.
Okay.
You can have a screening for dwarfism, and for mine, I know you can. It can be found. Amnio. I can't even think of the word, but it's called. Yeah. Can be found if someone is concerned about that. In my particular kind of dwarfism, someone would pursue that perhaps if they had a history in their family of my form of dwarfism. So they would ask for that. Perhaps. Not everybody does, but some will choose to look for that.
Okay. And should people look for that?
It's a delicate issue. And as far as the discovery of genes, it starts with, in 1984, the gene for achondroplasia, 1994, gene for achondroplasia was discovered. And since then, diastrophic, pseudochondroplasia, many other genes have been discovered, and they keep doing that. But for dwarfs themselves, if you speak to dwarfs, many dwarfs are very happy to have a child like themselves, and they would not dream of having amniocentesis in order not to have another child like themselves. And the test is very rarely done, these tests.
Is it expensive? Do you know?
It's very expensive to do it. Most people don't test for it. And there's been, I think in Australia, there was a big case of aborting a dwarf child, which most of us would not like to see happen, because if these children were aborted, we wouldn't have people like some of the great people who we know who are dwarfs, short-statured, like Anna and like Julie and Steinmetz, who was very important in electricity and inventing and so on. Many great people would not be here if we did this eugenic thing and eliminated them through
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
It can have a good thing too, and again, everyone will have a personal, philosophical, what's the right thing to do. If it's some will use it in a hygienic fashion. Others may use it as information. I want to prepare. I want to get information. I want to be, have my preparation for what I'm going to need to be providing medically, maybe even financially, even maybe environmentally. Maybe the cribs or the baby room needs to be arranged differently. Maybe, maybe not. So it's not all bad.
Right.
And that will also vary. People's perceptions on that will vary from person to person and how they feel about
right.
that.
Okay. And, well, talking about preparations, I mean, are there any medical concerns that are more common that you might face?
It depends what type of dwarfism you have. And in each type of dwarfism, obviously, as in each person, some people have back problems, some people don't. So in each type of dwarfism, it's different. I can talk about what I've had. I had an achondroplasia. Well, this is even a lot of achondroplasia and dwarfs, other dwarfism might have it, is leg surgery when they're young. And that's just preventative and to prevent bowed legs.
Okay.
And other than that, I've had some back problems, but not hardly at all. I haven't had any ear problems, which is common in achondroplasia, and spine problems. Those are the two most common, I think.
So,
and have...
With dystrophic dysplasia, there can be some birth issues that occur right at birth, potentially, depending on how severe the condition is. There can be some trachea issues, some small trachs, breathing difficulties that need to be attended to urgently at birth. That doesn't happen with every dystrophic, but it can. I think all different dwarfism conditions will have different kinds and levels of skeletal dysplasias and will need different degrees of surgical interventions. Earlier, later, it will vary depending on the kind of condition. The bones are displaced, so that wear and tear can become a problem earlier or as we age, depending on the kind of dwarfism. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Arthritis and skeletal problems are probably the biggest medical condition related to dwarfism that you hear the most about.
Okay, and in addition to the surgeries that you've had, are there other common surgeries that are done? Because in some reading, in preparing for the show, I've saw some information about hormone therapy and bone lengthening. Is that an issue of self-esteem, or is that a medical issue?
With the leg lengthening, it's not, unless it's for straightening. They can, for straightening of the bones. But leg lengthening is strictly, I believe, cosmetic, or not, you wouldn't say cosmetic, but personal choice. It's not medically necessary at all.
Okay, so it's almost...
Or medically beneficial. It's not medically beneficial.
It is. Can it be medically harmful?
Yes, it can be. If it's not done properly, you can, if you have a doctor that doesn't know what they're doing, sometimes it's 4 years of excruciating pain. And sometimes the doctor doesn't do it right and the bones break again. And
in general, how difficult is it to find a doctor who knows their stuff?
Very difficult. It's difficult to find orthopedic surgeons, neurosurgeons, if you need that, who have a track record with dwarfism. Particularly if you want someone that specializes in your particular form. It's hard to find. At least that's been my experience.
Well, I think we both were lucky,
very
lucky that we grew up with a man named Dr. Stephen Kopitz, who actually just died a month ago or 2 months ago.
June, yeah.
And he was an orthopedist. He only did dwarfs. That was his whole practice, and he was an he was just brilliant, and he made the life of thousands and thousands of dwarfs more livable because of his innovations and his expertise. And there are a few doctors now that solely do dwarfs, right? But not many.
Right. I think who at least have a considerable practice of dwarfs. I think there are around 7 centers in the country that you can really count on great expertise, but not so very many, and some people who have a little experience. And
So-
those persons sometimes can call the doctors who are the most experienced.
But it is
to learn
very
more.
important that if you have dwarfism, that you should see someone who has seen many other dwarfs.
Right. Is it becoming a specialty of
I
more
haven't-
doctors?
I have no idea. Probably not, because it's
Yeah.
probably not lucrative, right? Because you're only a percentage of the population, you know?
Mm.
And most pediatricians have only seen one dwarf, and most hospitals have seen very few. So it's only in a few special places, Texas, Los Angeles, Delaware, Baltimore still has a very considerable practice in dwarfs. But you asked, one thing you asked about, you mentioned hormone therapy, and we
Yes.
haven't mentioned that. Mostly we're talking here about the skeletal dysplasias, which are bone disorders. But
Is that a common misconception?
no, but endocrine disorders, which require hormone therapy. Many people have heard about growth hormone,
Yes.
and that was first used back a couple of decades ago and continues to be done. And that's very beneficial in many ways when it's done with very young children and infants. The younger, the more effective in causing them not just to grow to 5 feet or more, but to be healthier. And that is
What is
beneficial and common. And that's endocrine disorders, what used to be called, quote, midget or proportionate dwarfs, or the term is hypopituitary dwarfs. But there are fewer in this country now because many have had, it's diagnosed, and many have growth hormone at a young age and by injection. But most people you see at Little People of America meetings have bone disorders.
Okay.
Or some people have things like they get tuberculosis, like Alexander Pope had Pott's disease. He got tuberculosis, and he was only 4'6". So some people get it because of other medical problems
Okay.
as they go along.
Is dwarfism considered a disability?
In the ADA it is, the American Disabilities Act, it's listed as one of the types with a disability, so you can get, some dwarfs are eligible for Social Security benefits and disability benefits, parking things and stuff. Some dwarfs use it, take advantage of it, some dwarfs don't. There's a varying degree of disability in the dwarf community.
Okay, and as far as disability, is there a high ratio of persons with limited abilities?
What do you mean in terms of?
For example, say athleticism, or even day-to-day activities that might be more difficult in some cases. Is it very common to have a hard time, or in most cases, most things doable?
No, I would say it's different, It's different for any, depending upon what ailments you have. I have a hard time walking pen blocks, but many other things I can do. I don't know if I consider, sometimes I have pain and sometimes I don't. But as I said, I'm one of the lucky ones, Like, there are people who can't walk 1 block or do something, or
Okay.
I can reach a phone booth, whereas you might not be able, you can't.
It is amazing what an inch will do for you. How 1 inch can be a critical difference for many different things. you asked if there were things that were difficult and if dwarfism is a disability. Oftentimes, I feel more disabled by the environment than I do by the dwarfism itself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Our environment is designed for people that are in between a certain height.
Right.
They're not taller than such and such, and they're not shorter than such and such. The toilets are made a certain height.
The average kitchen counter.
Yeah. So depending on the environment, it becomes more of a disability to me. And depending on when I go to a new town, new city, then it's a bigger issue. I'm not familiar. The environments are not set up necessarily. So environment plays a big part into that, in my mind, in terms of whether it is a disability or not.
Okay. So, for example, just looking for an apartment.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
could either involve looking for something that's already pre-specially designed or having to completely renovate, or am I losing it?
It was amazing finding apartments. It's very difficult to find apartments that met certain basic requirements. Easy in, easy out, no steps. Depending on where you live, that's easier to find, or it's more difficult to find. To renovate your house to meet a height, that's what you have got to have some money.
Yeah.
So money also becomes the equalizer in terms of how impairing or how disabling sometimes your life may be, because it's quite expensive to renovate a house, to truly renovate it and make it easy access in the kitchen, bathrooms, all the way around. And there have been some that have done that. I've been to some that are very nice.
Yeah, it works out if you have money.
Yeah.
Well, talking about money, do you find a lot of blatant employment discrimination takes place?
You'd have to. Me, I haven't found that. No.
Have you
In
people
my,
you've talked to? Is it
see,
common?
like I think I've. It's lucky to live in New York City where difference is welcomed
Yes.
and
I mean,
accepted
right here in
and
Queens,
and
Queens is the
common.
most diverse borough, the most diverse county in the country.
Right.
So,
Talking to other dwarfs who live in smaller towns, I think that it is more common there. But here I've never had any problem. That doesn't mean that, of course, I'm sure that it exists.